The road stretched endlessly before him, a ribbon of asphalt that shimmered under the desert sun. Daniel Caldwell tightened his grip on the steering wheel, feeling the hum of power beneath his hands as his 1969 Chevrolet Corvette Stingray roared forward. The engine wasn't just a machine, it was a voice, a deep and steady growl that had carried him through decades of memories, triumphs, and regrets. The car had been his father's before it was his. Daniel remembered being just a boy when he first saw the Stingray pull into their driveway in 1969, its cherry-red paint blazing like fire against the gray of the family's modest home. His father, Michael, had walked around it with reverence, his hand brushing the curves of the fiberglass body as if it were some mythical creature. That night, the family had driven with the top down, the stars overhead, the wind wild in their hair. Daniel could still recall the laughter, the sense of freedom, the way his father's eyes gleamed like a man who had captured lightning. Years passed, and life was less kind. The Corvette sat in the garage more often than it hit the road. Daniel went off to college. His father grew older, and by the time Daniel returned home, the car was covered with dust and cobwebs, its tires sagging. Michael passed away when Daniel was 35, and suddenly the Corvette was more than a car. It was a relic, a sacred inheritance, a piece of his father's soul encased in steel and fiberglass. Restoring it wasn't easy. Every paycheck Daniel earned seemed to vanish into chrome fittings, engine parts, and meticulous paintwork. He worked weekends with grease-stained hands, his tools clinking against the floor of the garage, his mind replaying his father's old advice. Take care of it, Danny. The Corvette isn't just about speed, it's about spirit. It's the American dream on four wheels. By the time the Stingray's V8 engine roared to life again, Daniel felt as though he had resurrected not just a machine, but a memory. Now, on this endless desert highway, he was chasing something more than nostalgia. He was chasing freedom, or maybe running from the weight of a life that had settled too heavily on his shoulders. The Corvette was his escape, his confessional, his one true companion. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the sand. Daniel pulled off at a roadside diner, its neon sign flickering weakly. As he parked, the Corvette drew glances. Even in 2025, surrounded by sleek electric vehicles and self-driving cars, the Stingray demanded attention. Its low stance, its aggressive lines, its visceral growl, it was a defiance of time itself. Inside the diner, a man at the counter nodded toward the window. "That your Vetta?" he asked. His voice was raspy, worn by cigarettes and years of stories. Daniel nodded. "Yeah, been in the family for decades." The man chuckled. "Hell of a machine. I had a '63 split window once. Sold it when my kids were born. Biggest mistake I ever made." Daniel smiled politely, but inside, the words struck him like a chord. How many people had let go of their Corvettes, trading dreams for practicality, freedom for responsibility? Yet here he was, clinging tightly to his, as if losing it would mean losing a part of himself. He finished his coffee, paid the bill, and walked back out into the twilight. The Corvette gleamed beneath the fading light, its curves catching the last rays of sun. Sliding behind the wheel, Daniel turned the key, and the engine roared awake with the same ferocity it always had. He smiled despite himself. Back on the highway, night descended quickly. The stars emerged, and the desert wind carried whispers across the dunes. Daniel pushed the car harder, the speedometer climbing, the headlights cutting through the darkness. Each gear shift was a heartbeat, each mile a memory. He remembered his first date in the car, the way his girlfriend had laughed as they raced down the coast. He remembered his father's voice guiding him through his first solo drive. He remembered the silence of the garage after his father's funeral, when he sat in the driver's seat with tears streaming down his face, unable to start the engine. The Corvette wasn't just a car. It was a chronicle. Every dent and scratch was a story. Every roar of the engine was a song of resilience. Hours passed. The road seemed endless, yet Daniel didn't want it to end. The desert opened up into mountains, the air cooler, crisper. He pulled off at a scenic overlook, cutting the engine and letting silence flood in. The world seemed impossibly still, save for the ticking of cooling metal. He stepped out and leaned against the hood, staring at the expanse of stars overhead. In that moment, he realized something. The Corvette wasn't about the past, and it wasn't just about his father. It was about now, about choosing to live fully, to embrace the road ahead with courage and passion. His father hadn't bought the Stingray just to own a piece of machinery. He had bought it because it made him feel alive. That was the gift he had passed down. Daniel climbed back in, turned the key once more, and let the Corvette's voice shatter the stillness. As the car thundered back onto the highway, he felt lighter, freer, as though every ghost had been acknowledged and set free. The world rushed past in a blur of asphalt and wind, and for the first time in years, Daniel wasn't running from anything. He was chasing life itself. The Corvette carried him onward, its red paint a streak of fire across the night, its roar echoing like a heartbeat through the desert. Tomorrow would come with all its weight, but tonight belonged to the road, the stars, and the unyielding spirit of a machine that was never just a machine. It was a promise. It was a legend. It was freedom, eternal and unbroken, roaring into the horizon.